Hello and welcome to episode 91 of Gondor Calls for Ale, a Middle-earth strategy battle games podcast. I am, of course, your host, Sam Gallagher, and with me in another episode is my brother, Ben.
Hello, listeners and viewers. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Episode 91, one episode closer to the elusive 100 than we were last time.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yes, all right, Ben. Well, speaking of very exciting, let's get into the most exciting segment of any Gondor Calls for Ale episode, which is, of course, the ale. So, what are you drinking this fine evening?
Oh, well, for this fine evening, Sam, I have myself a You Shall Not Pilsner. For when swords are no more use here, grab one of these for fighting back, for standing your ground against summer thirst.
Ah, okay. All right, very good.
What about you, Sam? What are you drinking for this episode?
Well, Ben, I'm having a Shadowfax Shandy, a drink to show you the meaning of taste.
Very good. Very good indeed.
Indeed, it is quite tasty. All right, Ben, what are we talking about in this episode? Episode 91.
Well, we are going to start it off with a hobby highlight from our community and a brief look at some armies on display. For the main meat and potatoes of this episode, we will be discussing my attendance to the Great Battle of 2024-2025, the final closing event for the year in the OSBGL. So for those of you who don't know, I have just moved to Canada and have attended my first event. So I'll be talking about that.
Cool. Very cool. Wow. I'm only slightly disappointed with your pronunciation of potatoes. You turned it into a less than. Anyway, yes. I was going to say something about
could have done that. Room for improvement.
Yeah, but here we go. All right. Shall we move along with the Ent's least favorite thing, haste?
Yeah, moving right along. So we're gonna glaze through this hobby highlight a little quicker than we might otherwise normally have done.
Ooh.
But these are some awesome Bjornings.
Yeah, so full army, it looks like maximum army size Beorn, Grimbeorn, and maybe it's not quite maximum, but a whole horde of Bjornings, lovely on
They look so good
on their snow bases.
Yeah, I like the snow bases a lot. Very cool, very cool. And another one from our community, we have here a painted army of hill tribesmen. I'm not quite sure whether this is intended to be the besiegers of the Hornburg or the usurpers of Edoras, but either way, they look fantastic. Also on snow bases. I really like this wolf. I think the painter just did a fantastic job of capturing his personality.
I would guess that this is besiegers, just because there's no Frecker or Thorn, but there's also no hill troll or snow troll.
Right? Yeah, so I wasn't entirely sure.
But a good basis for either of them.
Right. I also like these captain's conversions. I was going to ask you, Sam, are these Beastmen parts?
I think they look like they're from the. That certainly could be, but they could also be from the GW Skull kit. They make like a set of skulls for basing. Yes, and the horde of birds.
Horde of birds, and if you look closely, I included some of the pictures of the hill tribesmen themselves because they all have their eyes painted, which I know you do on all your armies, Sam.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little eyes to paint in the force of hill tribes. Very, very impressive.
Twice as many eyes as there are hill tribesmen.
Yeah. I don't think any of them are one-eyed. So we're going to move here into the armies on display from the event that I went to. This fantastic display board was not actually up for best hobbying. Whoever owned it had just brought it to show it off again because it had won best army on display in a previous year. So just wanted to bring it back out and show it. And I saw it on Facebook a number of years ago. It is amazing in person. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, so this is, if you're listening and not viewing, this is Thorin's company crossing a bridge in Mirkwood. Looks like it's got some LED lights or something casting light through the trees. Very, very cool. Definitely worth jumping over and checking out the YouTube for just, this 30 seconds if you want to see a very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really cool display board. We've got a sweet I believe this is the usurpers of Edoras, outside of Edoras, but they're also on snow bases, so they could go besiege the Hornburg at a later date.
Yeah, well, I see Frecker, so he's got to die first, and then they can go besiege.
Yeah, then they can go besieging. I do like the display board, though. I think it's a particularly nice little Rohan gate. I don't have any pictures of the backside, but the backside of it's painted as well, obviously. Yeah. It's a display board you can enjoy from all angles. Some fearsome Depths of Moria with the fog effect.
Yeah, very good.
Yep. This is definitely the besiegers of the Hornburg. We got Shank and Rot. I like this display board a lot as well.
Yeah.
This one was my favorite. Khazad Doom. I don't think I did a very good job of photographing it, but just all the little details. I thought the display board was phenomenally painted, and the models were really, really well painted. This did not take best display. I wish it had. I thought it was particularly good. All right, that is armies on display. So, Sam, we're going to dive on into the event. It's 4 rounds, so we're going to try and get through these battle reports a little quicker. 650 points. They were 90-minute rounds, so I decided to play atop the walls, led, of course, by Gandalf the White and backed up by Irolas.
Classic.
Gandalf is riding Shadowfax with Pippin. He's got 6 Warriors of Minas Tirith with shield, 5 Warriors of Minas Tirith with shield and spear, 1 Warrior of Minas Tirith with banner, and 6 Knights of Minas Tirith in his warband. Next we've got Irolas, Captain of the Guard. He's got 3 Citadel Guard with longbow and 9 with spear. And we are going to dive right on into round 1, Sam, where we were playing Heirloom of Ages Past.
All right, I need to find that
scenario 15, I think. 15 or 13.
All right, well,
I wrote down 15, but then I was finding these.
Well, while I find it, why don't you tell us who you were playing against and what army they were playing?
Well, I was playing against Reed, and he had one of my favorite armies, which we have not featured on the show at all, the host of Cirith Ungol, which was super cool, of course, led by Gorbag, backed up by Shagrat. He had an Orc Captain, a Taskmaster, which is a kind of a nice addition to the army list, and, of course, Shelob.
I think you'll find it's probably led by Shagrat.
Oh, I asked. He told me that Gorbag was the leader.
Oh, maybe they are the same heroic tiers.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll look that up after I've read to you Scenario 13, Heirlooms of Ages Past, which, if you're listening, I'm not really going to attempt to describe it to you because it's a funny deployment zone. Basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a hexagon. Is that the right shape? Yeah, nailed it. Hexagon. I want to say stop sign, but that's 8 sides, right? Anyway, it's a hexagon shape of objectives in the center of the board. They're all 12 inches apart from each other, and it is a game with the Maelstrom special rule, so no deployment zones. We have a game that lasts until one army has been reduced to 25% of its starting number. I think I'm probably going to go over the special rules first before we get into the scoring. I think makes a little more sense. So we have Maelstrom of Battle and Heirlooms of Power, and then we have an additional special rule, which is uncovering the heirloom. One of the objective markers is actually the heirloom that both sides seek. The first time each turn an unengaged infantry model ends its movement in base contact with each objective marker, they may search it in an attempt to uncover the heirloom. When this happens, flip the objective over and reveal it to both players. If the objective marker is one of the 5 decoys, remove it from play. If the objective marker is the heirloom, the model that searched it will immediately gain possession of it. At the end of the game, the heirloom has... if at the end of the game the heirloom has not been uncovered, flip any remaining objective markers to reveal the heirloom before working out victory points. So, for victory points, you get 8 points if your army is in possession of the heirloom at the end of the game. If at the end of the game no model in either army is in possession, but you have more models within 3 of the heirloom than your opponent, instead you score 4. You score 1 victory point for each objective marker your army has uncovered that has been revealed to be a decoy. You score 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken at the end of the game. If the enemy army is broken and yours is not, instead you score 3. Score 1 victory point if the enemy general has been wounded during the game. If the enemy general has been removed as a casualty, instead you score 2. You score 1 victory point for having at least 1 banner. If your opponent has... if you have more banners than your opponent, instead you score 2 victory points. There we have it. Heirlooms of Ages Past.
Yeah, I think worth noting too that when you set up the objectives, you mark the backside of one of them to be different than the other
Yeah.
5. So you've got 1 heirloom, 5 decoys.
Yeah. I think ideally
right.
in a tournament situation, you should have the TO do that, and they should supply them.
Yes.
Because it just, I don't know.
Safer that way.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the tournament organizers did not have Heirlooms of Ages Past objectives, something for tournament organizers to look out for in the future. I think we used one of mine and put a piece of tape on the back of the objective so that it was marked as different. I won the first priority roll of the turn and gave priority to Reed, and he rolled on with his warbands. Gorbag rolled a 3, and I put him in on the western board edge, which, if you're looking at this image, we decided that the right-hand side of the table would be the western board edge so that we could put our casualties to that direction as well.
Just a...
so Gorbag... What's that, Sam?
Shagrat must always be the general, just in case anyone else is playing this and is curious.
Well... Reed told me that Gorbag was the general, so a game would have been different if we'd done that correctly, but that's okay. So Gorbag comes on the western board edge. Shagrat rolls a 6 and comes in on the southern board edge, directly opposite my forces here in the picture. The Orc Captain rolls a 3, and I put him in the center of the eastern board edge, and the Taskmaster rolled a 1. Shelob also rolled a 1, neither of them arriving this turn. Gandalf and Iralas both rolled a 4, which was my choice, north or south, and they come in on the northern board edge. Turn 2, Reed wins priority and elects to keep priority. He moves up his first warband, one of Shagrat's Mordor Urukai, and flips the first objective, and lo and behold, it is the heirloom. So right off the bat, things are not looking good for atop the wall, because you can see this rock there. That's where the heirloom has been uncovered on the southern board edge, sorry. Shagrat runs up, uses his special ability, give me that shiny shirt, takes an intelligence test, and is able to take the heirloom from the orc. Normally, you cannot hand off these heirlooms. They are precious objects. The Taskmaster rolls a 4 and comes in as well this turn. Gandalf has both of these turns attempted to make himself terrifying on a 3 dice and fails to cast it. I flip over an objective. It's not clear to me in heirlooms, once the heirloom has been revealed, whether you still get to flip over the decoys for victory points. We played it that you do.
Definitely.
So we were both still trying to flip over the remaining relics. I think Gorbag's warband managed to flip over 1. I rode one of my knights over and dismounted him. Yeah, you can see him there on the left-hand flank. And he got to flip over a relic as well. Turn 3, Reed also takes priority and elects once again to keep priority. Gorbag and his warband start moving towards Shagrat, who doesn't move. Shelob is on the board. She rolled a 6 and comes in behind Shagrat. That happened last turn, forgot to mention that. But he left 2 orcs in front of Gorbag with no spear supports behind the orcs, so it's just 2 orcs, then Gorbag. So in my turn, Gandalf rides forth. He spends Pippin's Will to transfix Gorbag. Gorbag elects not to resist the transfix, which is fine. Gandalf then finishes his movement by charging into those 2 orcs. He spends Pippin's Might to call a heroic combat, kills the orcs, cannons into Gorbag, and kills him as well. So I am getting leader VPs, if nothing else, even though technically I guess Shagrat should have been the leader. And basically from here, we just get this big scrum in the middle of the board. Reed takes next turn priority. We get a move off between Gandalf and the Taskmaster. The Taskmaster not only gets his might for free, but wins the move off. Gandalf is surrounded this turn. And you can see my knights, I put them too close to Gandalf. They also get countercharged this turn by a whole pile of orcs. It was funny. During the game, I was humming and hawing whether to put those knights there. And I was like, oh, it's going to go to a move off next turn anyway. I might as well have my knights somewhere useful taking up space. And I just shouldn't have put them there. They should have been back a little bit. That's fine, whatever. In the fight phase, Gandalf biffs his combat, rolls a 3 high, does not have enough might to take it to the 6. The fistful of orcs get the 6. They take 2 points of fate off of Pippin, 1 point of fate off of Shadowfax, and then finally kill Shadowfax. So Gandalf and Pippin are on the ground at the end of this turn. So that's the end of turn 4. Shadowfax is slain. The game continues on for another 3 turns. I'm going to run through it fairly quickly. Reed takes priority for the remainder of the game, so I only won the 1 priority this game. Gandalf and Pippin managed to survive it out in the middle of the board, just killing orcs, but basically I am unable to get to Shagrat, who spends the whole game hiding behind the rock. Reed was pretty cagey with Shelob. She was hanging back there as well for a couple of turns before he finally realized that I wasn't going to break through his lines. I had one sort of chance to get Gandalf to Sorcerer's Blast his banner, but didn't manage to pull that off. And this game ended with a 6-11 loss. Not really much to say about it. Good fun game. I killed lots and lots of orcs. I didn't quite manage to break him, but I did get 3 victory points for flipping over the relics, killing Gorbag, and then we both got a victory point for having a banner. So yeah, there you have it. Heirlooms of Ages Past. Lost round 1, but a good fun game.
It's an interesting one because I think it's one of the few that you can't pass the things off. So it's one of the few that you can like grab it with Shagrat, but then it does sort of incentivize you to not have him in combat, just to hide, which is, I don't know. I'm never a huge fan of I have the thing and then I'm just going to run away with it, or sort of even worse if it's I have the thing and it's like on my side of the board and now you have to chase me like the entirety of the game is a bit rough, but that is just the deal. I think sometimes especially with this scenario where it's like, well, that's 8 points. If I'm playing an army that doesn't have a way to get to the thing,
Yeah, I mean, losing Shadowfax and then having my knights in a bad spot essentially meant that I was not getting to Shagrat.
Sure.
And you can see where the orcs are. There are orcs on both sides of that rock. Shield's there. We're not fighting our way through that. Not in 90 minutes.
Right.
Like I said, this game did end on time. So had it gone on, I was fairly confident I could have cleaved through the orcs. But again, Gandalf on foot, difficult to say. All right, onwards into round 2, Sam. I was playing against Brent, and we were playing Convergence. Which I did not write the scenario.
One of the later ones in the book.
Yeah, I want to say 23 or 24. Might be all the way at the back. But he was playing the Besiegers of the Hornburg, one of my favorite army lists. I elected not to play it because I doubted my ability to move it all in 90 minutes. But he had Wolf, General Targ, a Captain, Shank, and Rot, and the Snow Troll, and 3 Crabane in there as well. His army was actually the army that we saw in the armies on display earlier on in the slideshow.
Cool. All right. Convergence scenario 24. You have 12-inch deployment zones on opposite corners. So player A gets corners adjacent or opposite from each other, and player B gets the other 2. You've got 4 objectives in the center of each side of the table. So like a diamond, I guess. You've got a game that lasts until one force has been broken, and then it may suddenly end on a 1 or a 2. You've got at the end of the game, and blah blah blah. It's the end. That's just going to tell you that whoever scores the most wins. You've got victory points. You score 1 victory point for each heirloom that has been held by a friendly model. For each heirloom that is being held by a friendly model within 6 inches of the center of the board. Instead, you score 3 victory points. You score 2 victory points if you have 2 or more models within 6 inches of the you score 2 victory points if you have more models within 6 of the center of the board than your opponent. You score 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken, 3 if yours is not, and 1 victory point if the enemy if the enemy general has been wounded, 3 if they've been killed, and special rules is Heirlooms of Power.
Nice. Awesome. So here we have the board. You'll notice this big square tower in the middle of the table. This was the tower of dice suspense. Because we were rolling our dice in the middle of the table, there was always a die that one player couldn't see. So it was always like, it was the table of dice suspense. So Brent takes priority on turn 1. I get to move first. Gandalf makes himself terrifying, and everyone sort of moves forwards. My army is obviously 2 warbands, so Irolas is in one corner, Gandalf is in the other corner. Brent split up his army with the Captain and Shank Rot and the Snow Troll in one corner, then General Targ and Wolf in the other corner. General Targ's warband is I think it's just entirely Flaming Brands. It was a really cool looking warband, but I definitely think it could have used some spears in this game. Brent also takes turn 2 priority. Once again, lets me move first. Gandalf throws a transfix at his captain for shits and grins, so he's got to harass people. He might as well. And his captain spends a point of will to resist the transfix. Successfully resist it, but is now out of will, which always feels good. And again, we're just moving towards the artifacts. Brent once again wins priority for turn 3 and elects this time to take priority. And we get some artifacts found this turn. Shank flips over 1 artifact this turn. And Wolf comes charging in towards some of the warriors near Gandalf's warband who are pushing towards the artifact in the center of the board there. Brent had his own custom objective markers, so we're using them, but they're little logs, so they kind of blend into these pictures quite easily. And in my turn, Gandalf attempts to transfix Wolf, but fails to get it off. Irolas picks up an artifact. Gandalf charges into Wolf this turn, and our knights countercharge the Crebain, which were charging my guys who were running for the center objective there. In the combat phase, the fight phase even, we get a strike off between Gandalf and Wolf. Wolf strikes to fight 9, Gandalf only goes to fight 7, and Wolf wins the fight with a 6. He manages to take 2 points of fate off of Pippin, 1 point of fate off of Shadowfax, but that is all he does. He was striking Gandalf, so I got to re-roll these. Basically, Wolf gets bonuses for striking heroes, and he was just looking for the general wounds. He would have got those bonuses for striking Shadowfax or Pippin, but he wanted to fight Gandalf, so that's fine. I finally win a priority. I have now played 11 turns in this tournament and won 2 priorities. And we get a move off between Gandalf and Wolf. Pippin wins the move off, and we re-engage in the back field there. General Targ arrives to harass Irolas, and you can see the Snow Troll is going to be completing a pincer move in a couple of turns. So Irolas is going to chop through General Targ's horde of flaming brands before the Snow Troll arrives. Gandalf once again tries to transfix Wolf. This time he succeeds. Wolf spends a single point of will and manages to resist. We get another strike off between Wolf and Gandalf. This time Gandalf wins the fight, takes 2 points of fate and 1 wound off of Wolf. Elsewhere on the battlefield, I kill 7 of the Hill Tribesmen and take 2 casualties in return. Also managed to kill 1 of Crebain this turn, which is pretty awesome. Turns out, although you can't trap him, countercharging Crebain with knights is awesome. Because you still get 2 strikes wounding on 3s per knight, so the Crebain can just disappear. Turn 5 priority, I win as well. We get another move off. Wolf spending his last point of will here. Brent's captain also calls a move and is able to flip over another artifact this turn. And
what do you mean by flip
no, I'm sorry.
over?
Wolf saves his last might for the strike off. We get a final strike off this turn. Gandalf once again wins the strike off, and this time manages to kill Wolf.
What do you mean by flip over the artifacts?
Not flip. Pick up an objective. It's an intelligence test to grab the objectives in this one.
Gotcha.
So the Kill Tribe's captain has been taking intelligence tests for a couple of turns in an attempt to pick up his relic. We kill another 9 models this turn and take another 3 casualties, so inflicting pretty massive damage.
I don't think it is an intelligence test, Ben.
No, we did. When we played this one on the and did a battle report on it, we were taking intelligence tests.
No, that was a different one.
Are you sure Convergence isn't intelligence test to flip these over?
It has the special rules of Heirlooms of Power.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just double check that. Yeah, Heirlooms of Power, and then Heirlooms of Power says Heirlooms is treated as a light object. However, dark power is upon it and seep into the mind. Unwilling to pick it up. Unwilling to give it up. Models may not pass it to another models. Additionally, at the start of the turn, you can get transfixed. Uncovering artifacts is intelligence tests.
And that's not a special rule in this one?
No.
Well, we were playing it wrong. Man. Two for 2 there.
Yeah, well.
Some rule errors in my games. Alright, where were we? Wolf is dead. The captain has an artifact. And at the end of this turn, I am able to slay enough Hill Tribes, and basically General Targ's warband is taking heavy casualties. We've now gone into combat with the captain's warband, who has picked up the artifact with the rest of Gandalf's warband. Wolf's warband is basically wiped out because it was 3 Crebain and about 6 Hill Tribesmen. So there have been a lot of dead Hill Tribesmen at this point, and the besiegers are broken at the top of the next turn. I take priority for turn 6, give it to myself. We re-engage, and in the most heartbreaking of all moments, Shank, carrying the relic, fails his courage test on Snake Eyes and runs off the table.
Oof.
Yeah, it was hard to see. Rot almost biffed his as well and has to spend his point of will and his point of might to pass his courage test, but is then able to pick up the artifact that Shank dropped. And the Snow Troll is closing in on Irolas, who is still duking it out with General Targ. At this point, most of Targ's warband is gone. In the fight phase, General Targ is battling Irolas. I felt like I was in the winning position, and I wanted Brent to have some fun. I really wasn't trying to just completely beat him down. So my warriors in Irolas' warband were mostly just fighting the Hill Tribesmen. A couple of them went into the Troll this turn, and it was just Irolas and one warrior fighting General Targ. General Targ wins the fight. I don't remember if he got the 6 and I didn't, or if the roll-off went to him. But he's got 2 strikes. Irolas has got 2 wounds and 1 fate. 2 fate. General Targ gets 2 wounds on Irolas, who fails both of his fate and is killed this turn. And General Targ seizes another one of the relics off of Irolas' corpse, which was completely shocking. Did not see that coming. That's what you get for taking your foot off the gas a little bit.
So you get for failing all your fate then. Yeah,
that's what happens when Ben fails all his fate. You see General Targ having slain Irolas there and stolen the relic. It was a hilarious moment. We were both just hooting and hollering throughout this whole game. But this moment in particular, especially after Shank had just run away, which was just so rough to see, and then for Targ to run around and poke Irolas right in the face was just hilarious. But all is not yet lost, because next turn Gandalf rides up, kills Targ, and takes his relic. The game continues on for 11 turns, with me slaying Hill Tribesmen. At this point, we're rolling dice to see if the game ends on a 1 or a 2. The game does not end. I kill all of the Hill Tribesmen. I take the Captain's Relic with a Knight, riding models towards the middle of the board. The Snow Troll is fighting what's left of Irolas' warband, and I threw Gandalf into the Troll because why not? I think I won the move off or something, or won the priority on this turn. And so we're tied fight. I've got the Elven Blade, blah, blah, blah. The Snow Troll wins the fight and takes 2 wounds off of Gandalf, who has to spend his remaining fate to remain unscathed. At which point I rode Gandalf away from the Troll and was able to kill it with some lucky rolls from me, unlucky rolls from the Troll. The remaining Citadel Guard were able to poke it to death. And on the final turn of the game, we had a few minutes left in time. Rot fails his courage test and runs off the board as well, which meant that I tabled Brent for a 20-0, which was, it was a bit of a yikes kind of moment. Fun game, great guy, looking forward to playing him again. But definitely a bit one-sided, not necessarily because I was going, full bore or anything. He just got some unfortunate courage rolls.
Yeah.
Sad to see Shank just with full stats 3 will and 2 might just run off the table.
Yikes.
Yeah. All right, that was round 2. So we are 1-1 so far for the day. A minor loss and a major win, which brings us into round 3, where I was playing against Chris, who brought the Army of Dale, and we were playing Reconnoiter scenario number 5.
Yes. All right.
My Achilles heel of scenarios, I will say.
All right, we have a game, or a game with no deployment zones, because you move on via reinforcement. A game that lasts until one army is being reduced to 25% of its starting number. You score 4 victory points if more of your models have escaped the battlefield via your opponent's board edge than vice versa. If at least 2 of your models and twice as many, you score 8. If at least 3 of your models and 3 times as many, you score 12. 1 victory point for each of your hero models that escapes to a maximum of 3. 1 victory point if the enemy general is wounded. If the enemy general has been removed as a casualty, instead you score 2. 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken. 3 if you are unbroken. And you have the special rules of reinforcements. At the start of your activation phase, roll a dice for each of your warbands not on the battlefield. Consult the chart below. You can use might to improve the roll. On a 1 to 3, it doesn't arrive, but gets +1 next turn. On a 4 to 6, it does arrive and walks on from a point 6 inches away from the corner of your board edge. Somebody commented on one of our videos and said that if you have a character that's dominant and you walk it off, it counts as that many characters for like this scenario, which I'm not sure if that's true or not, but an interesting point if it is.
That is an interesting point if it is. It makes, I mean, I was going to say Treebeard, but...
Well, I mean, any general who gets off the board
any general, yeah,
immediately scores you 3 victory points. I'm not sure. Anyway, food for thought. Moving on.
When we read the hero, no, it's confusing about dominant because it says models on both entry for moving off the board. Yeah, interesting point. Good question. Don't know. And here is our table. I didn't get into taking pictures until about turn 3 or 4. His army, of course, was led by Girion, backed up by a Windlance, who gets to deploy on the table with his entire warband within 6 inches of the Windlance, so not rolling to deploy there as well. Another Windlance in the army as well, which of course also gets to deploy on the table, and then 2 Captains of Dale. I believe he had a total of 40-ish models. I think a little more than that, 44 or something like that.
How does that work when you don't have deployment zones?
When you don't have deployment zones, you pick a board edge and you deploy the war machines on the board.
I know, but
within 6 inches of the board edge.
Right, and then can you deploy your Dale models 6 inches further past the Windlance as long as they're within 6 inches of it?
I am not entirely sure. Chris deployed his whole army. He deployed the warbands entirely within 6 inches of the board edge.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure if you could like put Girion and his warband and his lance down within 6 inches of the edge, and then the warband within 6 inches of Girion. I am not sure. He did it the gentlemanly way, I would say.
Yeah.
So I win the first turn priority, give priority to him. His 2 captains successfully walk on the board. Gandalf rolls a 4, comes on the board, makes himself terrifying, and I take a shooting casualty from a Windlance this turn. Irolas rolls a 3 and does not arrive. Chris takes next turn priority. Gandalf casts Blinding Light. No shooting casualties this turn, but Irolas does walk onto the board. Turn 3, Gandalf once again casting Blinding Light. Chris taking priority again. I'm taking another shooting casualty from the... I think this is probably getting close to when the... No, I think this picture was taken turn 4. I take another shooting casualty from the Windlances this turn. Turn 4, Chris takes priority. Gandalf once again casting Blinding Light. I spent a point of might on it this turn because you can see where my knights are here. I really wanted this to go off. I didn't want my knights to eat Windlance and a bunch of bows. I wanted to use them to reconnoiter successfully. So I spent Pippin's Will. Don't take any shooting casualties this turn, but do manage to inflict a shooting casualty of my own. My 3 trusty longbowmen from Irolas's warband managed to snipe one of the evil archers of Dale. Turn 5 priority also goes to Chris. He gives it to me to move first this turn. Gandalf once again casts Blinding Light. And my knights ride off round the side of this rocky outcrop, maintaining 6 inches from Gandalf, and my Gandalf's warband pushes forwards. At this point, I had not taken a bunch of pictures, so I'm going to leave the slideshow here because this is a couple of turns further on. I take 3 shooting casualties from Irolas's warband, who are not within range of the Blinding Light. Obviously, they're in my backfield defense at this point. And one of the Windlances on that side of the board is hoofing it down the board along with one of the captain's warband. They picked up the Windlance, and there's a flood of Dale guys flooding down the left-hand flank of the board, with Gandalf and his warband pushing up the right. Turn 6 priority once again goes to Chris. He elects to move first this turn. And I blunder my cavalry. I move them around the flank of the board. They're outside of the range of Blinding Light for Gandalf. Gandalf's off doing Gandalf things, slaying warriors of Dale. And I should have spread my knights out so that the Windlance could only kill one of them. Girion opens fire, gets a 5 on the scatter dice, is able to make that a 6, so it's a direct hit, hits one of my knights and sends it catapulting backwards into 2 more, and kills all 3 of them with 1 fell shot, reducing my total number of potentially reconnoitering knights from 6 down to 3. Which was a bit tough to see. In the next turn, I finally win a priority and elected to give myself priority, and I mess up with my cavalry again, Sam. I rode them around behind that rocky outcropping you can see that's in front of Chris there, so that the Windlance can't see them, but I forgot that there were a bunch of archers. Not a bunch, there were 3 archers on top of that rocky outcropping. And the shooting phase, the 3 archers open fire and kill 2 of my remaining 3 knights, leaving me with just 1. And my thought when I moved them to that position was, if I just ride them off the board right now, they're their impact on the game, while they're scoring me victory points, their impact on the game is over. If I leave them next to Girion's Windlance, Chris has to play some protectiveness. You know, has to think a little bit about where are those knights going. Are they going to ride off the board? Are they going to go for the Windlance? You know, he has to think about it a little bit. So I got cheeky, basically. Got cheeky and was punished for it. Taking, I mean, 3 guys getting 2 shooting kills is pretty outrageously lucky. Especially with cavalry, they could have hit the horses. But you know, what can you do?
You know, when Girion rolled the 5 and took it to a 6, he spent a point of might to do that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure because he gets to increase it, but only if he's shooting at monsters. So
yeah, no, Girion spending a point of might to do that for that. Yep, thank you for correcting me there. We do finally get some combat this turn. I think this is over on the other flank. Irolas has popped out from behind his rock and is attacking a bunch of the archers on that flank. We get 2 kills this turn, but take 3 casualties in return, in addition to the 2 shooting casualties. Turn 8, Chris takes priority again, elects to go first, and we get into some real fighting this turn. Gandalf charges forwards, throws a Sorcerer's Blast, successfully casts it with a point of will, but fails to get the kill. Irolas called a move this turn so that he could engage properly. And here we go. I think this is right about where I lost my knights. Yeah, you can see Irolas's warband is fighting off on the left-hand flank, and they're coming through the middle of the board now. There are about 10 Warriors of Dale who are within striking distance of my board edge. So something must be done. So Gandalf, Sorcerer's Blast someone, fails to get the kill, charges into 1 warrior and spends Pippin's might to call a heroic combat. Ooh, I'm getting ahead of myself. He charges into that warrior. I think you can see the smallish rock that's in the middle of the table there. Gandalf goes into that 1 warrior, calls a combat, goes into the next 2 on the other side of that rock, as you can see over top of it, because it's just shorter than Shadowfax, which is pretty awesome, and gets 3 kills this turn. Next turn, priority turn 9 goes to Chris as well. That's okay. Gandalf calls a move, spends another Sorcerer's Blast, doesn't get the kill. In the combat phase, he charges into 2 more Warriors of Dale. In the combat phase, he calls a combat. Chris countercharged him with 2 Warriors of Dale, so he's fighting 4. Gandalf's not afraid. Gandalf calls a combat, kills all 4 of them, goes into another 2 and kills them as well. So Gandalf on his own right now has accounted for 9 shooting casualties and is my entire defense in the back line.
awesome.
He has abandoned his warband. Irolas is over the center line of the board at this point and has killed most of the archers that were pushing towards him and is going to go dismantle the Windlance that's over on that flank. Girion is just lugging his Windlance forwards, not really doing very much. And Gandalf's warband is attempting to take the high ground against the Warriors of Dale, who shot down my knights. Turn 10 goes to Chris. Fortunately for me, Gandalf is outside of charge range of any warriors. At this point, you can see he has just cleaned up the backfield all by himself.
Dang.
So he can't get countercharged by anyone. He's outside of 6 inches. He's got to turn around and come back the other way to go into some more guys. Sorcerer's Blast successfully gets a kill off a Sorcerer's Blast, goes into 2 more guys and chops them down as well. Another 3 kills for Gandalf there. Elsewhere, Girion has pushed far enough forwards that his Windlance is not within range of my warriors on top of the hill. And they're not getting the +1 bonus to wound, so he's looking for 6s to wound me now, and he just could not roll 6s. At this point, I wanted the game to end. I was like, I'm broken, or I know this one ends on quartered, so I'm getting close to being broken. He's getting close to being broken. I think he is broken. I might be broken. I can't quite remember. I didn't write down who broke when at this point. I've ridden my 1 knight off. He doesn't have any models off the board. So if the game ends now, I just win. So I'm just really looking for my warriors to die. He's pushing them off the cliffs. He's failing to kill them when they fall off the cliffs. He's failing to kill them with the wound rolls from his warriors. I was just like, just kill my guys. But it just didn't happen. The game continued on. Gandalf riding around here are my warriors. You can see they're on the edge of the cliff. They're good at defending walls, I guess. They're good at falling and catching themselves. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Gandalf rides around the flank, slays a couple more guys, and the game keeps going. We keep slaughtering each other. It goes on for 13 turns. I win priority on turn 11, but lose the rest of the priorities for this game. When he is finally broken, there are 2 warriors within striking distance of the edge of the board. I've got priority. Gandalf moves first. Sorcerer's Blasts. I think there were 4 warriors within range of the board. He Sorcerer's Blasts, kills one of the warriors with the Sorcerer's Blast, charges into the other 2. The remaining warrior manages to pass his courage test and is able to reconnoiter this turn. So we now both have one model reconnoitering. The game continues until we are both quartered. We both quarter each other on the final turn of the game, turn 13, and it ends up in a 1-all tie. With no one scoring any points for doing any reconnoitering, because we both only reconnoitered one model, thanks to me bungling my cavalry, essentially. And we both got 1 point for breaking each other. So a super fun game. I think Gandalf accounted for something like 19 kills all by himself, which was just fantastic. So much fun.
Well, I guess lesson learned, Ben. If you can get off the board and reconnoiter, just get off the board, man.
Yeah.
Or leave one night. Leave one night and run 2 off.
Yeah. I know. Totally an inexcusable mistake. Reconnoiter remains my Achilles heel of scenarios. And there's the end state at the end of the game. You can see there's one warrior of Dale very close to getting off the board again, and Gandalf getting ready to do more slaying. At this point, he's out of might mode, so no hero combats from Gandalf. He has done the Lord's work.
Was there any way you could have dismounted Pippin to engage multiple people?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't think if you dismount a model, I don't think you can continue moving with the model. But it's possible. It's possible.
Should have dismounted them earlier. Extra safety.
Yeah. Actually, I will say the rerolling 1s to wound with Pippin on Shadowfax came in clutch in so many of my games. I rolled a lot of 1s to wound, which I then got to reroll for maximum slaying. So glad to have Pippin with me for that. All right, Sam, 4th and final round. I'm feeling a little ragged at this point. I am 1-1-1 for the day. And we are sort of at the tippy top of the tables. They were using Longshanks for this, but they were doing a better job than they did at Adepticon, because the tables were not, like, if you were in first place, you weren't playing on table 1. You might be playing on table 14. The tables were somehow randomized. I don't know how they did it, but it was awesome because there were no table repeats, which is fantastic. All right, round 4, we were playing Assassination, and I was playing against Andrew, who had brought the Depths of Moria, of course, led by the Balrog, with 2 Moria Goblin captains. He had 4 Prowlers, but the rest of it were just Goblins with either shield or spear.
All right. While I find Assassination.
Scenario 11.
All right, we have a game with deployment here to describe, which may be it's the second out of these 4. So you've got 24-inch deployment zones, a game that may suddenly end after one force has been broken. We've got some special rules. We've got Dark of the Night, and we've got the target and the assassin. The target, at the start of the game, secretly note down one of your opponent's hero models. This is your target for the game. This may not be your opponent's general unless they only have 1 hero. You have the assassin. At the start of the game, secretly note down one of your hero models. This is your assassin. You may not be your general unless you only have 1 hero model. You score 3 victory points if the target has suffered a wound. If your target has suffered 1 or more wounds and your assassin caused at least 1 of those wounds, instead you score 6 victory points. If your target has been slain, you instead score 9. If your target has been slain and your assassin caused a fatal wound, instead you score 12. You score 1 victory point if the enemy general has been wounded during the game. If the enemy general has been removed as a casualty, instead you score 3. You score 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken at the end of the game. If the enemy army is broken and yours is not, instead you score 3. You score 1 victory point if your assassin is alive at the end of the game. You score 1 victory point if the model your opponent chose as their target is alive at the end of the game. There we have it.
All right, we were playing on a Khazad Doom board. You'll be very proud of me, Sam. I played the terrain game. I was gentle about it, but I pushed for these. You can see them on the board. There are 3 ponds. I pushed for them to be shallow water, which, the Balrog will ignore. The goblins will go very slowly through, and most importantly, my knights will also ignore as well. So, and then we deployed just like this. This is deployment. The Balrog is there, and I have the choke point the best choke point that I could pretty much dream of. I think it could be a little bit tighter, but you can see between that broken column and that L of Osgiliath ruins, there is about 3.5 inches of open board space, which is just enough to entice the Balrog into a choke point, but narrow enough that you can block it closed with about 3 warriors. Which was my whole tactic for dealing with the Balrog this game. If you look at that ruin too, you'll notice that some of the doorways are blocked closed, so it's actually effectively like a wall. A lot of you can see through it, but you can't move through it, which Also, it was going to aid me in bottlenecking the goblins. I won first turn priority roll-off and gave priority to Andrew. And we get blood on the first round, Sam. The goblins rush forwards. The Balrog pushes forwards. He's not in combat this turn, obviously. We make sure to keep Gandalf away from the pesky whip. And Gandalf charges into 2 goblins, spends Pippin's might to call a heroic combat. Andrew gets the 6. Gandalf doesn't, has to spend another point of might to win that combat. Kills his 2 goblins, and then goes cannoning all the way around onto the left-hand flank. The goal here is there's just a couple of goblins all the way on that left-hand flank, and I'm trying to punch through over there, away from the Balrog, so that I can get behind enemy lines with Gandalf and kill my target. Andrew takes turn 2 priority. I should say I got a total of 6 kills this turn and only took a single casualty. Andrew takes turn 2 priority, elects to keep it. I don't call any moves, and the Balrog pushes forwards, getting into combat with 1 warrior. Basically, you can see he might have been able to get into 2, but not really. Just clogging up the board pretty effectively with Warriors of Minas Tirith here. And in such a way that even if he barges, he's not going to get to move very far, or very many of my models, because the rest of them are fighting goblins. You can't barge people out of combat. In the fight phase, I get another 6 kills, but take 3 casualties in return. The Balrog calls its heroic combat, and I believe manages to get a kill or 2 this turn. Turn 3 priority also goes to Andrew. He elects to take priority this turn. Irolas calls a move. One of the goblin captains calls a move, and the move off goes to the forces of evil. Mm-hmm. The Balrog calls a heroic combat. Gandalf calls a heroic combat, and both of them biff it. No one gets any heroic combat action this turn, and not a lot of kills. I kill 4 more goblins and take no casualties, so a bit of a boring turn on turn 3. But might has been spent, which, is important. Turn 4, priority also goes to Andrew. He once again elects to take priority. Irolas spends his 2nd point of might to call a move. The Goblin Captain spends his 2nd point of might to call a move, and once again wins the move off. Gandalf spends a cheeky point of... he wins the move off. The Goblin Captain is by the Balrog. Irolas is in the middle of my battle lines, so that even when the Goblin wins the move off, Irolas is, you can sort of see he's in the middle here. Gandalf's off on the left-hand flank. So the Balrog and the Goblins over there by my sweet choke point are getting to move first, but Gandalf, most importantly, is still getting to cast spells. He spends a point of will and Sorcerer's Blasts the Goblin Captain, who has not spent any resources, who just so happens to be my assassination target. He successfully casts the spell, successfully wounds the Goblin Captain. The Goblin Captain spends his fate and a point of might to remain unscathed. But importantly, no more fate on that Goblin. I finally win a priority. And the Goblin Captain who I blasted is in not a good position to call a move, so I get to move first. I should say too, the Balrog obviously called a free heroic combat last turn, and once again failed his heroic combat. I got 1 kill last turn and took 1 casualty, so again a low killing turn last turn. So turn 5, I take priority. Gandalf makes himself terrifying. The battle lines relock. Gandalf and Irolas are getting pretty close to cleaving through on the left-hand flank over there in the fight phase. I kill 5 goblins, but do take 4 casualties. The Balrog finally getting a couple of kills here. I believe it was able to get into 1 guy, called its free heroic combat, and then was able to get into 2 more. And my knights, I should say, I've been playing the long game. They've not been participating in the game so far. You can see them off here on the right-hand flank. They've been riding a long way around. They're going Goblin Captain hunting. That's their job, to go ride down the other captain. Turn 6 goes to Andrew, and he has at this point figured out that the Goblin Captain is my target. My knights have moved at this point. This picture was the end of turn 5. No, I'm sorry, the beginning of turn 5. So at turn 6, I move my knights forwards. I made sure to keep them out of 5 inches of the goblins. I forgot to measure to be 8 inches away from the Balrog. I kind of looked at it and went, that looks like more than 8 inches. Didn't bother to measure it. So a couple of my knights are within threat range of the Balrog, which is unfortunate. The Goblin Captain, who I've Sorcerer's Blasted, Andrew has figured out that he's my target. The Goblin Captain calls a march and goes marching off into the center of the board to get away from Gandalf. It was a little bit of unfortunate positioning for Andrew. Just one of those moments you forget how fast Shadowfax is. 12 inches is a long way for both for a movement horse and for the Sorcerer's Blast. There was this little spot. You can see where Gandalf is here, and if you look in the back, the Balrog has gone. He's gone attack my knights, has slaughtered all my knights. I put them in a bad spot. It was unfortunate. It happens. But you can see that there is Groblog over there. What's that?
You said you put them in a bad spot. It happens, and I said multiple times in this event apparently.
Yep. Ben, need to relearn how to use cavalry apparently.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that the Groblog over there, who is my target, he's just a goblin captain, obviously. He's Groblog, the goblin captain, has done his heroic march, zoomed off over there, and Gandalf is able to ride around the backside of my battle line, and is just within 12 inches of him. Spends 3 points of will here to Sorcerer's Blast the captain, because it's probably my last chance to get him. I do successfully get the Sorcerer's Blast off and successfully get the wounds. We've now wounded my target. The Balrog, of course, calls its free heroic combat. I take 5 more casualties and kill another 2 goblins this turn. Turn 7, priority also goes to Andrew. I call a move with Gandalf's last point of might because I realized that actually last turn wasn't my last opportunity to Sorcerer's Blast the captain, but this is my last opportunity to Sorcerer's Blast the captain because Andrew is now out of might. I'm still within range of the captain from last turn from the Sorcerer's Blast. So Gandalf spends his remaining will to Sorcerer's Blast the captain once again. But unfortunately only rolls a 3, needing a 4 to wound the captain, is out of might, and is not able to get the final wound of the Goblin captain. Yeah, and with the Balrog having mopped up the last of my knights, the Goblin captain is able to sort of run away. The Balrog comes back into my lines. We get 2 more turns. We both win a priority. We both lose a priority. We get some good kills. He is just able to break me this turn at the end of the game, and the game ends on time with a 5-all tie because here's the final end state of the game. I killed 38 goblins, but because I didn't touch the Balrog, he remained unbroken, and break is worth 3 victory points in assassination. So it ended up being a 5-all tie, a really great game, really satisfying to shut down the Balrog. He failed about 3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 heroic combats that he called, so he didn't have a great game with the Balrog. But that said, I think mostly what stonewalled the Balrog was my choke point tactics. It really worked really, really well.
So you got 3 points for wounding his target, 1 for your assassin being alive, and 1 for his target being alive.
Yep.
And he got 3 for break, and then the same.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. His target to kill was Iralas. On the last turn of the game, the Balrog picked up one of my warriors, hurled him into Iralas, but I didn't even have to spend any fate. He just didn't get the wound on Iralas.
Did he set anyone ablaze?
He did not set anyone ablaze. Basically, there was no good... I mean, he could have just set some random warrior ablaze, I guess, but at no point did my heroes were anywhere particularly close to the Balrog. Gotcha. I have to say I was briefly tempted to try and make Pippin my assassin, but... he has to be dismounted to get the kill, so... No. Not a good move. It would have been fun.
So, 1, 2, and 1?
Yep. 1, 2, and 1. And, I know why I lost my first game. It's Heirlooms of Ages Past. It's a swingy scenario. My second game, crushing victory against the Besiegers of the Hornburg. And my 2 ties, I know why they're ties. I know exactly where I bungled it, and I know where I played well. So, a good event. And, I've got some more coming up in the future, and hopefully that was me shaking the rust off.
Yeah. Wow, very cool. First event in Canada was the last event of their league. So, I guess... No, we're not going to do that. I was going to say, I guess we can keep track of how you do in the league next year, season, whatever, but... I don't really support leagues, so I'm not going to do it.
Well, I'll probably keep track for my own sake.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ben, is there anything else you want to say before we close out episode 91?
No, just that, if anyone out there is thinking about playing with Gandalf, I saw a post on Facebook and someone, was feeling a little intimidated. They were starting out the game and didn't necessarily want to start with Gandalf. They felt he was a little too complicated, intimidated by his magic. You can definitely just ignore his magic and just play with him as a beatstick. He's just fantastic. Yeah. So much fun to play with.
I mean, the fact that you lost Compel on his magic means it's definitely less crucial. Yeah. Transfix is good. Sorcerer's Blast is good. I would have been very tempted just to put a free dice banish into the Balrog every turn, even though it's got 10 will and resist the magic. Eventually,
I threw some spells at it. I didn't talk about it because it didn't do anything. But yeah, I did throw some banishes and some transfixes in the Balrog because it was for shits and
right, exactly. Well, excellent. What do you have the dates and locations of the next events you're thinking of attending? Or
I sure do. I will be attending. I don't know if the event has got a name yet, but it is on November 22nd, and it is in Essex. It is all my events. Let's have a look. The West calls for aid at A&B Bike Repair and Board Games. So apparently it's a bike repair and board game shop. That'll be an interesting place to play. Worth checking that out. Super excited to go there. And then on December 6th, we have the Winter's Wrath, which is in Toronto at some sort of convention, I think.
And are these both like 650 points? Are they?
Winter's Wrath is 600 points, and the West Calls for Aid is 700, I believe.
Nice, very cool. Well, that is where you can find Ben next. I'm not sure what event I'm going to be at next, or where it will be. So nothing from me in that regard. Or I guess the next one I 100% know is Adepticon, but that's a while away, and we don't know what the points values are. So. With that, we'll close up this episode. Thank you for listening. Check out our YouTube if you haven't. Check out our Patreon if you want to support us. That we really, really appreciate all our past, present, and future Patreons. And if you're still listening at this point in the episode, definitely please check that out. And we will be back in a few short weeks with another episode. Thank you for listening to Gondor Calls for Ale. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. We, at Gondor Calls for Ale, are officially sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice. These beautifully hand-swirled resin dice have no microbubbles and are therefore perfectly balanced. With over 3,000 variants and unique designs, nearly every tabletop gaming system is represented. So check out the description of this episode for a link and a discount code. Go buy yourself some new dice and let the good times roll. We at Gondor Calls for Ale are not associated with Games Workshop, New Line Cinema, or the Tolkien Estate. We hope we have not misrepresented or offended anyone. These recordings are strictly recollections of games we've played and are not commentaries on the character or competence of our opponents. They are intended purely for entertainment, and we hope they will be taken as such. You can find us on Patreon, see the link in the description. Supporting Gondor Calls for Ale there helps us continue to produce these episodes. You can find us on Instagram at Gondor_calls_for_ale. Feel free to send us a message there. Or on Facebook as Gondor Calls for Ale, another great place to send us a message. Or you can send us an email at gondorcallsforale@gmail.com. As Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, once said, remember today, listener, today this episode was good.